Command prompt, PowerShell, terminal. What's the difference and what do I want? Hi everyone, Leo Notenboom here for askleo.com. So depending on your setup, you can see either of three separate options in the alternate, or what we really refer to as the right-click start menu. You might see command prompt, you might see Windows PowerShell, or you might see something called terminal. They're all command line interfaces, but of course, they're different. Sort of. Let's take a look at what they are, what you can control, and which one you might actually want to use. I'm going to start with Windows command prompt. And I'm here in Windows 10. What I'm going to do to run it, and you'll see why here in a minute, is just run CMD. Occasionally, inaccurately, but somewhat fondly, Windows command prompt is often referred to as the DOS box or MS-DOS. The command prompt has been in Windows since the beginning. It is not the old MS-DOS command prompt, but it mimics the older MS-DOS command line interface. After firing it up, you use it by typing in commands. I'll just do dir here as a command for directory listing, and you follow it by the enter key to actually run or execute the command. Its syntax and the basic commands, they go all the way back to MS-DOS with a lot of expansion along the way. This default prompt that you're seeing here, C:users askleo, that tells me which folder, also known as directory, is the current folder, C:/users/askleo. Now, we can run command prompt several different ways. We'll get into the right-click start menu in just a minute. One of the more interesting ways that I just did was, of course, to just click on the start menu, type CMD, it shows up in the search results, and press enter. And of course, if you're so inclined, you could type the Windows key plus R to get the run dialog and run CMD. Poof, there we have another instance of CMD. Windows PowerShell. Windows command prompt is powerful, but it has its limits. As a result, Microsoft created a new command line interface called PowerShell. This time, what I'm going to do is right-click on the start menu, and you'll see that the default for this right-click start menu in Windows 10 is Windows PowerShell. We'll change it in a minute, but this is probably the most common way to get to one of the command line interfaces. So I'll just run PowerShell. It is a command line interface, just like command prompt, meaning you type in commands and press enter to make them go. The difference is that PowerShell, while it is similar to command prompt, it is not compatible with command prompt. What that means is that some things work differently in PowerShell than they do in command prompt, and there are many things added to PowerShell that you just can't do in command prompt at all. PowerShell lives up to its name, power. It includes a more powerful scripting or programming language and significantly more direct access to Windows programs and settings and its internals. It's intended for fairly advanced system configuration, maintenance, and manipulation scripts. This default prompt that we see here, PS space C:\users\askleo, is exactly like the command one we saw in command prompt, with the addition of leading PS space to indicate that you're in PowerShell, not command prompt. Now, same thing. You can run PowerShell by clicking on the start menu and starting to type power, and eventually it comes up with Windows PowerShell. You hit enter and off it goes. Or if you want, you can use Windows key plus R and type PowerShell, the whole thing, and enter, and off it goes. All right, now, Windows Terminal. If you're running Windows 11, chances are when you right-click on the start menu, you don't see Windows PowerShell here. You just see something called Terminal. Terminal is essentially a wrapper for both command prompt and Windows PowerShell, and even more. Now, it doesn't come with Windows 10, but you can install it. And in fact, I have. You'll find it in the Microsoft Store. I'll just search for Terminal. And you can see there, Windows Terminal is what we're talking about. And I already have it installed on this machine. I'll open it. And you can see that, yeah, it kind of sort of looks like the others. It comes up with a command line interface, but there are a couple of very interesting differences. One is that it's a tabbed interface. You can have multiple windows open to multiple different command line interfaces. This one has defaulted to opening Windows PowerShell. However, if I click on this Open a New Tab drop-down, you can see that I have options, and I can, in fact, start Windows Command Prompt. So what I have here is Windows Terminal with 2 tabs open. One tab is open to Windows PowerShell. The other tab is open to Windows Command Prompt. And you probably saw that there were more things available on this drop-down. Azure Cloud Shell seems to be something that Microsoft is pushing. Honestly, most people can simply ignore it. On my other machine, because I have additional software installed, there may be other command shells available here. I've got them listed in the article that goes along with this video. So, which of the tools opens by default when you start Terminal is something you can select in its settings. We saw that when we started this one, it came up with Windows PowerShell. What if we wanted to start with Windows Command Prompt instead? Well, we hit that download, we go ahead and hit Settings, and this default profile is what it is we want to change. The default profile can be whatever is available. I tend to prefer running with Command Prompt. I'll talk about that in a second. We'll hit Save. Now I'm going to go ahead and close Terminal. This time, we'll go ahead and hit the Start menu, start typing Terminal. There it is, one of the first search results. And now it came up with Command as the default command line interface. All right, so we now know what these 3 things are. Command Prompt is the old, simple command line interface. PowerShell is the newer, more modern, more powerful command line interface. And then Terminal is essentially a wrapper that lets you choose either or both or even some others. In current versions of Windows 11, I believe it's Terminal that you'll find on the alternate start menu. Yeah, through Terminal, you can use any of these command line interfaces and select which one you want by default. It's probably why they switched to it. Windows 10 defaults to possibly Windows Command Prompt, but it may also have defaulted to PowerShell, as we saw here in the right-click Start menu. I've got PowerShell. Well, as it turns out, there's a setting. So we'll go ahead and hit Settings. I'm just going to search Settings for PowerShell. And there's this option here that says Replace Command Prompt with Windows PowerShell in the menu when I right-click. If I turn that off, now, closing Settings, when I right-click on the Start menu, there's Command Prompt. So you can choose in Settings in Windows 10, which of these 2 you want to be the default in the right-click Start menu. And like I said, we've seen it here. You can also install the Windows Terminal app from the Microsoft Store, though this might not actually affect the alternate Start menu, but you could run it in other ways, like I talked about, or you can pin it to the Start menu, or you can pin it to your taskbar. Okay, great. Which one should you use? Well, I like Terminal. I like having the other shells available to me, the other command line interfaces available to me. However, since I'm old school, I have it default to opening the Windows Command Prompt. It's what I'm used to. It's ubiquitous. And compared to the other command line processors that may be available, it's probably the simplest. Did you open the wrong one? Here's a trick that a lot of people don't realize. Here I am in Command Prompt. Let's say I'm in Command Prompt, but what I really wanted was PowerShell. Okay? PowerShell is a command I could run within Command Prompt. Boom. Now I'm in PowerShell. If I did it the other way around, if I was in PowerShell and I wanted to be in Command Prompt, I could just run CMD. Now, it's unnecessary here because we're now running Command Prompt within PowerShell, within Command Prompt, but you get the idea. PowerShell will run PowerShell if you're in Command Prompt, and CMD will run Command Prompt if you're in PowerShell. and they happen to run in the same window. They don't create another window. They don't do anything silly like that. I find it the fastest way, actually, to switch to, quote unquote, the other one, depending on what I'm doing. And yeah, you may have to type exit a few times in order to get out of them all, if that's the approach you want to take. The other question, of course, is what about admin or not? You'll see that regardless of which one is in your default alternate start menu, there's two copies, right? There's, in this case, command prompt and command prompt admin. Well, the difference is exactly as you might expect. Without admin, the tool runs with your current privilege level. Even if your account is administrator capable, you're always running with limited privilege. If you try to do something that requires a higher level of privilege, then either it'll fail, which is uncommon these days, or you'll get a UAC prompt that says, hey, are you sure you want to do this? If you run the admin version, and I'll do that here, you'll see that right away we get the UAC prompt. And if I say yes, what's happening now is that everything I do in this command prompt has full administrative privileges. So you want to be careful what it is you're doing. Which one you want depends on exactly what it is you're trying to do. Unless you're instructed otherwise, or if you're not sure, use the non-admin version of the tool to start. If there's a problem, if there's something that's obviously not working because you're not admin, you can switch to the other. So, when in doubt, I choose Windows Command Prompt, probably via Windows Terminal. Regardless, though, at least you know now why they are there, why there's 2 command line options in Windows, kind of like 3, and hopefully you have a sense for which one you might need. For updates, for comments, for links related to this topic and more, visit askleo.com/186097. I'm Leo Notenboom, and this is askleo.com. Thanks for watching.